Mary Sue is a very, very popular insult for a badly written character, but the term itself sucks. It is a genuinely awful, argument-inducing term. And that's why it has gotten so popular, basically, because it is just such good content for basically people who need content to argue about and to postulate and go, is Superman a Mary Sue? Is Saitama a Mary Sue? Why is Rey Skywalker a Mary Sue? Why is, you name it? The problem is it doesn't actually provide a useful definition. So you can get these things where, like, what is a Mary Sue? And people can just say a badly written character, typical of tropes from fanfiction. That's actually a useful definition. But you can get more specific things. Like, you probably saw in my thumbnail, there, if you zoom in and find that, I'll join my Gilded. That's where my book club is. I'll link this image in the Gilded, and you can check it out there. Well, by the way, there's going to be a live stream for Armor by John Stakely soon. But for example, like some traits of a Mary Sue are like they have hair, eye, skin, or fur color that would be considered unusual for their race or species within the context of the story. And this isn't due to them dyeing it or wearing a wig or color contact lenses. Their personal weaknesses disappear when it's convenient for them or the plot. They have inexplicable wealth or wealth they haven't earned. They get away with doing things which most other characters wouldn't get away with, such as mouthing off to an authority figure or getting into fights. They manage to convert other characters to their way of thinking after only a single argument, or are always proven to be right, while other characters who disagree with them face negative consequences or are punished for their dissent. They are extremely promiscuous, and nobody ever judges for them. They are inexplicably good in bed despite a lack of experience, and so on, and so on. I'm sure if you click on this video, you have heard someone else on this platform talk about Mary Sues and complain about them, and try and use them to explain why such and such character in such and such franchise is badly written, to try and give some kind of objective foundation to why they have the opinion that they have. And if you stick around, I'm going to explain a much better test that actually explains what people are actually complaining about, because Mary Sue is a crap definition, and politics has the solution, actually, believe it or not. So, as my case example, I'm actually going to use Konosuba from Konosuba, because as you may know, I do actually read constantly, and this is supposed to be a book review and discussion channel, but sometimes I read a book that I just can't directly review. How am I supposed to do a review of volume 15 of Konosuba? Like, good God, if you get to 15, if you're even considering 15, you're going to know whether or not you're going to want to read it, and whether or not you're going to want to read a book about anime girls doing indecent things. It's a great book, by the way. But Kazuma is your typical isekai protagonist in a lot of ways. He gets humiliatingly killed on Earth because of a truck accident, let's call it. I don't have the time here to rehash the entire plot, but he gets sent into, I've heard it called Fantasy Australia, and tasked with defeating the Demon Lord. Except, oh no, he's the weakest class, an adventurer. And his cheat item is a useless goddess. He brought Aqua, the goddess of water, and several other things like reincarnation, with him as his cheat item, so that she can fight the Demon Lord or Demon King for him. So Kazuma is unusual, but everyone likes him. He has unusual hair color. For the area, no one really questions that, except when they lampshade it. Everyone inexplicably likes him, except when they inexplicably don't like him. He keeps getting into the center of attention, and he keeps coming through, even though he has no skills that actually warrant it. Oh, except he has quick thinking. Really, his actual skill is being friends with the girls around him who have superpowers, such as Megumin with Explosion, Darkness, who is an unbreakable tank, even though she's a masochist, and so on and so on. He keeps encountering demon generals and whittling them away through luck, because that's his one stat, luck. And isn't that a great stat to be good in? Because that is just a cheat code for the author to let anything happen so it all works out in the end. And it's great. Like, I don't care how you look at it, Kazuma is Mary Sue. Most isekai protagonists are Mary Sues. And nobody really complains about that, except like in a tongue-in-cheek, like, oh man, it's so special. Like, wouldn't you want to get teleported to a fantasy world where you befriend the SSS level danger werewolf thing and get a harem of elf girls to farm with you? Or it is the ascendant genre right now, and it's entirely built around uh regular guy basically getting unimaginable power just handed to him. The entire world bends around his power in ways that nobody else could ever pull off because he's just so special. Women fall for him left and right. And nobody typically can challenge his power because he just just keep happening. Oh, he spawns in as a slime and just happens to encounter this ancient dragon that he befriends. It just happens that way. They're all Mary Sue traits, but nobody really complains about that. Partly because they go into the genre expecting that. But it's also, I'm going to stand by that Mary Sue is not actually the problem. It's a correlation, not a causation. Any one of those traits, you can find on a character that you like and say it's fine, it's excusable, or you can find on a character you don't like and say, oh, it's trash. And it gets extremely obvious when you start doing things like, okay, well, is Superman a Mary Sue? Superman is like super attractive to the opposite sex. He's super strong, bulletproof. He has every power. He has no real weaknesses. He has no moral flaws. He has this, that, and the other thing. And people just go, don't you know what a paragon story is? That's not a Mary Sue. He's just a paragon. It's because they like Superman. That's actually all it comes down to. And that's why you've probably noticed that people don't talk about Mary Sue very much. Probably directly, it was Rey Skywalker beat the discourse into the dirt. But it's because it isn't a good definition. It is like all these traits are like potential flags of what might be going on. Because like I said at the beginning, you can basically sum it up as a poorly written character with traits commonly found in badly written fan fiction. To just touch on the biggest one, the world bends around them. Well, you should check my other video on what it actually means to raise the stakes, and you'll realize that that's not, like, you shouldn't be ascribing that problem to them being a Mary Sue. You should be ascribing that to the author lying to the consumer about the various likelihoods of and severities of different possible future states. When things just work out, and the character just gets a power-up from the middle of nowhere in the middle of a fight, the reader, consumer, viewer, whatever, is going to feel cheated. That's the problem. It is because of the lie between the creator and the consumer. It's not because of the character trait. People have just tried to explain what Mary Sue is. Even though, as you may know from the trivia, Mary Sue comes from a Star Trek fan fiction called The Trekkie's Tale, where the main character set up my other microphone by the time I do my next video. Anyways, they lampshaded the whole thing and intentionally wrote a character that has all the typical fan fiction self-insert problems to kind of make a joke out of it, and it caught on. Good for them. Corollary, Hero was actually an entertaining piece of fan fiction. Now, that actually, I think, if you narrow the definition down and specifically talk about this corporate slop issue of new creators getting hold of old IP and just bastardizing the IP, and specifically say it is the corruption of a character because it was given to someone other than the original creator, I think that can make a good definition. In general, though, the actual check is, do I like this character? And you know that instinctively. You can simplify it to the bar test from politics. See, callback. There is basically a rule of thumb in runoff elections from America mostly, that if you want to predict who's going to win an election, you look at the two candidates and go, who is the average person more likely to want to go to the bar with and have a beer and chat for an evening? It is that simple. If the character is obnoxious, rude, and would be disliked by the person consuming the content, if they were like an actual person, that consumer does not want to spend the time that they are consuming the story with that character. Therefore, they don't like the character. That is the end of the analysis. You have to make a character that people enjoy spending time with, which doesn't necessarily mean a good character. But you will see that bad writers will just write obnoxious characters because they're trying to do things other than make an endearing character for the consumer, such as injecting politics. And it also explains why people like the Sherlock Holmes exaggerated archetype of the hyper-competent asshole is still fine because people like competency. They like spending the time. That's why you can have a super detective that just solves problems, like what's his name, the GeoGuessr that can look at a picture and spot anywhere on the globe. Competency is endearing and attractive when not paired entirely with other negative traits, when it doesn't win out on that front. So when you are assessing a story, particularly if you're creating, you're looking at your own, or if you're trying to understand why a series isn't pulling you in, just ask the question, would I hang out with the main character? And if the answer is no, that's the problem. That's really all there is to the analysis. There are other examples that you can get out of like literary fiction where you are going to be going into the story for different motivations than your typical genre story. That's a little out of scope here. No one ever talks about like Ahab's a Mary Sue or something like that. It literally just doesn't even come up because it is so disconnected from the discourse here. So let's leave that aside. Closing statements here. Mary Sues are good. Any trait that you would complain about being a Mary Sue is perfectly fine. It just comes down to, did you like the character or not? Did you find them to be an asshole? Were you irritated by being in their presence? Which you basically are in the presence of the character if you are sitting here reading them. And I like Kazuma. I'd be friends with Kazuma even if he's a piece of shit. That's kind of the joke of the story. That's why it worked. That's why all those traits work for him. And if you say, like, if you can check another series, such as the ever classic punching bag of Rey Skywalker. But I'm actually going to point out, I think that's the reason that Isom from Rippaverse is going to severely struggle. There are plenty of reasons to like Isom, but I don't think the main character's personality is one of them. That's why I didn't pick up Isom 2. I found Avery to be unlikable. He did not pass the beer test for me. So Rippaverse is probably going to grow through other characters like Era. So it's that simple. Would you hang out with the person is the actual question. It is not, oh, look at how special they are. Ichigo is 1 quarter Quincy and 1 quarter Hollow and 1 quarter Shinigami and 1 quarter Fullbringer. And he combines them all to create Ultimate Negation Getsuga Tensho so that he can... You like Ichigo? That's simple. Most people liked Ichigo from Bleach. That's why his silly powers were silly. People joked about it, and the fact that Kubo Tite, the author, just kept adding random shit to him that maybe was set up, or maybe he was just pulling random ideas together. Ichigo was a likable character. So all of his Mary Sue traits were fine. And you can, like, adjust your nerd glasses and go, oh, actually, he's a Mary Sue. But it doesn't matter, because he was likable. Even though I guess Ichigo was a little boring by the end. And that actually was a problem. But, case closed. Check out my book. Definitely not a Mary Sue. He definitely has flaws and shortcomings and moral struggles. And, yeah, you should check it out because this is a really great cyberpunk detective story available now. And I will link right now to my Raising the Stakes video, which has a lot more information for properly assessing why stories work or don't work. Cheers.